Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to every single one of you guys. We are talking the Hawkeye season finale today. Could there be a season 2? Is this just the only series we're getting of Hawkeye? I guess we'll find out soon. I was sitting through the credits seeing if they would give us something like Loki did where it said Loki season 2, but we didn't get that. I'm wearing my Christmas sweater. I'm sure many of you guys are excited for Christmas this week, but we are spoiled with Hawkeye's season finale this week, and we're going to be diving into full spoiler thoughts here. This is my review, but the most important part about these reviews and staying up late is reading your guys' thoughts. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, theories, what you guys think might be coming up for Kate Bishop and Hawkeye and every single one of the other characters in the MCU, especially Yelena and Kingpin. Come on, he didn't really die. We'll talk more about that. As well, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button because I'm crazy. I love staying up. I love watching these things right as they debut so we can have great conversations. And as well, I do have a bunch of Spider-Man content over on this channel right now, and we will be talking about Book of Boba Fett next Wednesday night. So if you're a big Star Wars fan, stay tuned for that. But let's jump into this episode. And I was really worried going into this episode because a lot of these finales for Marvel, I don't think have all hit the bat at a 10 out of 10. And usually they go in with so many things that they really need to hit. Different storylines. And sometimes they don't always hit. But I still overall always really enjoy the show. Thankfully with Hawkeye, I actually think it might have one of the strongest season finales that they've done yet for a Marvel series. And I say that. Still, I think Loki might be my favorite finale, even though I know not everyone loved the ending of that show, and some people thought it was a little bit too dragged out, but for me, I liked what it had set up. With Hawkeye, I actually think as a conclusive series for all the storylines, this season finale hit it and nailed it in the target like it was supposed to. Yes. Pun intended. And there was a lot going in here. We knew that the uncle was finally going to get introduced. We were going to get Vincent D'Onofrio. We had to end that. We had to end Echo's story. We had to end Eleanor's story with her daughter. We had to end up what happened with Jack in the prison. We had to end up with Hawkeye. Will he get back for Christmas? Will he survive? What is going on with Yelena? Is she actually going to execute Hawkeye? We knew that wasn't going to happen. At least I hoped it wasn't. But these are the questions we all had, and many more, and I actually feel satisfied as a fan while also being excited for what is possibly next within this, with all of these different characters. And, starting with one of the big storylines, let's get out of the way. Jack got out of prison! Yay! He's the swordsman, and it was pretty badass seeing him actually do his swordsman stuff, because that character in the comics, while super cheesy, it's nice to see how Tony Dalton was really able to bring that character to life in sort of his own fashion. And I hope this isn't the last that we see of him, because I love Tony Dalton in this. Anytime he came away as just Jack, he was so good. And if you haven't watched Better Call Saul yet, he is excellent in that show as well. Moving along from another storyline as well to kind of dive into is this series. This episode picks up with who is the big man. We've all been maybe thinking that Kingpin is possibly in here because Echo is. Yes, Vincent D'Onofrio is in here, and I was so excited to see it because I love the Daredevil series. That is still one of my favorite things that Marvel has done in like the last decade. I love those 3 seasons of Daredevil, and one of the biggest aspects of there was the man himself, Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, and I was worried how they were going to use him in here because bringing him in, there's that kind of jarring thing of, oh, okay, well, is this the Netflix version? Is it not? Are they just bringing him in and saying, oh, this is like a variant version? For now, I'm going to go with that this is a variant version of Kingpin. I think there are some Easter eggs in here that may say, well, some of that stuff might have happened. Maybe just not like you think so. And I think we'll find out about that later down the road, especially as, if you haven't seen No Way Home, I am going to say a spoiler in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Charlie Cox shows up in there as Daredevil for literally one scene, and I'm assuming we will see him more in She-Hulk, in the Echo series, and other things coming down the line, which is very exciting. And I think that's where we'll kind of get more of what is going on. Are they just variants? Are these new versions? Or maybe even Kevin Feige will eventually establish it. Every interview I've seen, he hasn't really said yet if they are canon. I don't imagine they were. I think they'll just play it off like that. But again, that opening scene of seeing Vincent D'Onofrio come back, he's so known for his monologues as Kingpin. And I was sitting there, he started going into someone. I was like, okay, so majority of this episode is going to be a Kingpin monologue. It wasn't. I still would have liked that because I just love D'Onofrio's and the way he plays it. But I also love that he has the cane, he has the white suit, he had the purple pants in that first scene. I was flipping out because Kingpin is an awesome character. And one of my first introductions to him was in the 90s Spider-Man series. So this was a big introduction for me to kind of just see how they brought that to life. And the cane is very identical to the comics and that series. So it just put a big boyish smile on my face, and I had a blast with that. But seeing Eleanor tell him, no, I don't want any part of this, we got the definitive case that her husband did die, and that he just owed Kingpin a lot of money, so she's been paying back that debt. She decides to leave. He hires the tracksuit mafia to go and take her down, kill her. But Hawkeye and, of course, Kate Bishop now know that they must protect her while at the same time taking down this criminal mastermind in this entire thing, which again was the fun aspect because you see them. They're dressing up. They're going to the party, which we still did not find out who bought the Avengers Tower. I swore it was going to be Kingpin. That was my biggest theory, is that Kingpin owns the tower. Maybe he still does, but it seems like he's very low to the ground in this entire establishment, and that's kind of some of the reasons that I feel like it is the same version from Daredevil, just because that version, the last time we saw him, he wasn't in the best of ways and kind of lost everything. Again, that's just my thoughts right now. You can let me know if I'm wrong or right down below, but I really loved, I was really baffled by that. So I'm imagining if it's not Kingpin that owns the towers, it's not gonna be Oscorp, because, you know, certain things in Spider-Man I think kind of establish that. But I gotta think it's Baxter Tower, the Baxter building from the Fantastic Four. That's my next guess. I don't know. Maybe I should just stop guessing, because what do you guys think? Who do you guys think owns the tower? I mean, lots of questions in there. But moving on along a little bit more into this, seeing them kind of head there, getting the LARPers to kind of help out with this mission, I thought was also great. And I just love how Hawkeye, in a sense, has very much changed throughout this series. The last time we saw him after Endgame, he was a very depression, mess, PTSD, all sorts of things like that. And even the beginning of the Hawkeye series, we very much saw this through that entire layer. And I was so happy to see by the end of this episode, by the end of the series, he was back to the Hawkeye that we've seen. And a lot of that was due to Kate Bishop bringing back that hope to him. And he does establish this later down the road when he's talking to Kate and really much saying, like, people can change your life. And even his conversation with Yelena was very important in this turning point for him. But in this episode, seeing them make the makeshift arrows together, saying that she's ready, all sorts of things like that, was a lot of fun. And seeing that he trusts her as maybe that next formidable person to take on the mantle of Hawkeye. And at the end, of course, they're having that whole fun thing of, well, what about Hotshot? Or this, or that? And he goes, I got an idea. And it just flashes up to the Hawkeye logo. Again, smart in its angles and the way that it's able to take that on. Really, really dig that. But of course, in this whole entire tower, Kazi, Echo tells Kingpin, I need my kind of break. I need to get out of here. Kazi and them end up going there. He's the sniper trying to shoot her. Misses. Hawkeye ends up going forward with his plan, and the great action set pieces ensue in here. We have the Tracksuit Mafia versus Jack, which is, again, just fun. Seeing the LARPers actually take him on was a lot of fun. And then at the end, seeing the cops interrogate them and be like, well, we're technically Avengers in this, which I'm like, yeah, that's what I would say as well. And then also seeing them interact with Jack to, like, just be like, yeah, like, you should try and LARP. And then he's talking about the blood on his tie. Again, a lot of fun. I know I'm bouncing around. These are how my recaps work. I just like talking about certain story points and bouncing all around, but that's just how my mind works. Oh, well, sorry. Deal with it. Moving forward, even then, my favorite segment, or one of my few favorite segments, is, of course, when Kate Bishop realizes that Yelena is there. We knew she was going to show up, which I was very happy to see that Florence Pugh just wasn't in one episode of Hawkeye. It very much feels she was established, put in here, and really much had this entire arc moved over. And for a little bit, I was actually nervous that we weren't going to get this resolution, but thankfully we did, and I'm really happy that this episode was an hour and 1 minute, including credits. Every single Marvel show, it feels like the finale is always a little bit too short, and it's like we needed that maybe 10 more minutes for the pacing, and I actually felt the pacing for this episode was so nicely brought about. And again, seeing that whole conversation of Yelena and Kate Bishop in the elevator, and then them having that tracking one-shot take throughout the entire thing of them fighting, that was fun. And I don't know about you guys, I need a show with Yelena and Kate Bishop with one another because their chemistry, Florence Pugh's chemistry with, of course, Haley Steinfeld, it is unmatched, and it is one of my favorite new things in the entire MCU, especially within Phase 4 that has been introduced. Like, I already knew I was probably going to like that, but it's better than I could have ever imagined, and this episode doubled down on what we had seen in the previous episode. But, of course, Yelena goes out, misses the shot to Hawkeye, and then Kate Bishop takes that chance, kind of harkening back to when she had first seen Hawkeye jump out of the window during the first Avengers movie. And seeing that, she misses, but then it becomes, again, she joins the fight with Jack and taking on the Tracksuit Mafia and all sorts of things like that. Hawkeye ends up taking out Kazi and some of the other people in that building, and then he takes the zip line and it breaks, and he gets into the tree, and we see a cute little owl, which I thought was a nice little parallel to, of course, his hawk, mask that he wears in the comics. I love, though, when Kate Bishop goes about, takes down the tree, timber, and it just becomes a full-out thing of having fun with these trick arrows, because that is one of the coolest things ever. And one of my favorite trick arrows, which when we saw that pin one, I'm like, all right, how is that going to work? When we see the van shooting, I knew she was going to shoot it. I knew it was going to shrink, but I didn't expect the owl to grab it, and I thought that was just a lot of fun. But then they must take their separate ways because she must go save her mom, and Hawkeye's, finishing off Kazi. But what ends up happening here is Yelena gets in the mess of it, Echo comes back and takes on Kazi, and of course, Kate Bishop must fight off Kingpin in this instance. So let's talk about the Echo and Kazi real fast. I really dug how Kazi and them fought. I liked how Echo actually ended up killing him. I was surprised by that for a second because I thought he was going to be one of the main characters in her show that's coming out later. I don't think it's going to be next year, but probably 2023, I would imagine. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're already filming it. Who knows? But I'm really loving this character. I've always adored Echo from the comics, but never been super deep into her. So I'm really happy to see how the MCU is able to further out some of these characters that we don't spend a lot of time with, or maybe we haven't ever in the comics, and really expand on them and give them the limelight. And that's what we get here, and we see that emotion because we know that she believes, like, what she said. And I think then that kind of ties into that very last scene that we'll talk about in just a second. The next one I want to dive into is Yelena and Hawkeye, because when Yelena came in, I was like, okay, thank God, let's continue the storyline, because I was a little bit worried that she was just going to disappear. It feels like that happens sometimes in certain instances of these Marvel series. They have this fight, they have this argument, but Hawkeye's really much just taking the punches, trying to tell their truth. And when he does that whistle, it kicks in for her that was their secret whistle, and she finally opens up to listen. And I think that's where it's going to really be interesting to see where her character goes next, because she was hired by Eleanor, but that all went through Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, Valentina, in which we know she has already hired the U.S. agent as well. So what is that going on? Again, no end credit scene, which we'll talk about the actual end credit scene, but no end credit scene concerning all those. And again, something I was very interested in seeing, and I was surprised to not see that. But then she leaves, and I was really hoping he'd be like, hey, come home for the holidays. That didn't happen. But let's get down to the last thing. Kingpin versus Kate Bishop. So, of course, when Eleanor gets to the car and we see the dead people, I'm like, oh, who could it be? I didn't think Vincent D'Onofrio would come back. Nah, he throws that guy to the back of the building, rips the car door off, and this is big-ass, strong Kingpin, which I think also goes to the other creditation that this is not the same version that we knew back in the Daredevil series. This one seems more roided, ripped, which is straight out of the comic books, and Kate Bishop starts fucking with him, and they get in a fight, and then she slams the car right into him, and then it becomes Kate Bishop versus Kingpin. And I thought this was a really fun fight because he's just throwing her around. You're sitting there cheering for her. Well, what I loved about this is that Hawkeye, Yelena, no one else came in for her help. She earned her stripes right then and there, doing what she needed to do, and I loved how they were able to handle this. She ends up doing that flick thing that Hawkeye ended up teaching her, and it blows up the arrows, knocks them out. She saves her mom and also arrests her mom, calling her out, which again, everything her mom's saying is life has consequences. Well, bitch, that's your consequences too for everything that you've done. And I really appreciated that they went forward with that. I love Farrah Farmiga, and I think that's going to be a very toxic element right there. And then, of course, Kingpin disappears. And we see Kingpin end up with Echo, and Echo ends up pointing a gun to him and shooting. I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way you introduce Vincent D'Onofrio in 1.5 episodes, because you introduced him at the end of the last. We finally got to hear him talk, and then you just kill him off. You don't do that. I know they didn't, and the biggest role of movies and TV is if you don't see the body actually lie down, they didn't die. We know it. They did not die. I'm sure he grabbed the gun from her, or she shot it in the air, or threatened him, or did something of that nature. He's not dead. I really feel like he will be one of the main antagonists in the Echo series. And here's actually my theory. I think Daredevil will be a main protagonist in that series, but I think somehow Kingpin convinced her that Daredevil was the mastermind behind all this. That is only my theory right now. I could be completely wrong, but I think it would tie into certain comic book storylines, changing out certain characters, and I'm interested to see what your guys' thoughts on that theory is. But again, there's no way he's dead. Moving along to the very last scene of this, Hawkeye makes it home for Christmas Day, brings home Kate Bishop and Lucky. We find out the Watch is, of course, his wife, which is something that a lot of us have been predicting. They burn the Ronin suit, they have fun choosing the name, and the show ends right then and there. No season 2 announcement. Nothing of that nature. I do think that we are going to get maybe something of a season 2, or maybe a Yelena and Kate Bishop series. I have no idea what they're going to be planning to do, but I am very excited to see what they do next with the Hawkeye character and Kate Bishop. It still seems like, I thought they were going to retire Jeremy Renner after this. Seems like we're probably going to get more of him, and I think it's just evolution and bringing this character a little bit more to life, and I'm so happy we have Haley Steinfeld in this role. It was great seeing her come by, and she is one of the new versions of Hawkeye. We have 2 Hawkeyes now in the MCU, and of course we get the Avengers musical, like the actual full thing, which I thought was a cool little Easter egg. I saw there was 10 minutes left. I'm like, damn, how long is this end credit scene gonna be? And it was fun. I was just, as a fan, I was like, come on, really? I wanted something else, a little bit tidbit, but I guess I'm just a spoiled brat in there. Anyways, guys, thank you so much, guys, for watching this. You guys are seriously all the best. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. Again, hit that like and subscribe button. Comment down below your guys' theories, your thoughts, all sorts of things like that. Look out for Boba Fett reviews coming very soon. Next week, I'm going to be doing the exact same time. I've heard insane things about the series, so if you haven't been hyped about it yet, get hyped. Everything we've seen is literally from the first 30 minutes of the first episode, so I can't imagine what they have in store for us. Other than that, guys, may the Force be with all, because Star Wars is coming up, and may all of you guys have a Merry Christmas.